Hello and welcome to the Brock Talk Show. Coming at you every Friday with my opinions on camera, you putting your opinions in the comments, and me writing back telling you exactly how wrong you are. This week, I thought I'd touch on something that is a little bit more personal to me. I just binge watched this show for the second time on Netflix, so I thought, hey, why not talk about something that I think everybody has talked about at some point if they're a fan of this show. And this is How I Met Your Mother series finale. Is it as bad as everybody says? Now, I know most of the people that you talk to are disappointed by something, even if they're not, completely upset with the ending. They do get disappointed by something in the end. And so I just thought I'd talk about really quickly some pros and cons, give you my opinion, and then tell you how wrong you are because I've got the camera, because I've got the power, and it's all mine. Oh, that was weird. I'm worried that maybe this YouTube channel is kind of taking like a bit of my soul every time I make a video. Anyway, so if you are a fan of the show, you know the bad parts. They've been talked about many a time. You probably have some of these same concerns, so I'm just going to touch on really quickly the three main cons of the series finale. First of all, the Barney and Robin divorce. Now, I understood it. The problem with it is it was so soon in the episode, and I'm going to touch on why that's also a problem. But it was 3 years into their marriage, which does make sense. 3 years, honeymoon period is over, things aren't working out. Okay, I can see that happening. But the problem is, they had just had the wedding last episode. 5 minutes in, like they're still celebrating the recital, and then like 5-10 minutes later, it's 3 years later, and they're getting a divorce. And it did kind of bug me a little bit, even though I understood it. It still did bug me that, yeah, it's too soon. It just happened. Their wedding just happened for the audience, the viewer. And it's hard to really experience those 3 years in only 15 minutes. It doesn't work that way. And on top of that, it didn't really fit with the personalities. That they had very different personalities throughout the whole show. But at the end, they had changed. Barney had changed, Robin had changed, and so you expected them to work it out. You expected them, they have new personalities now, they've worked things out before, this is going to be okay. But they didn't. They didn't work through it. It seemed too sudden. It seemed out of nowhere. It seemed like Barney was still too immature, even though it seemed like he had matured near the end of the 9th season. And so it just felt like they had reverted back to their old personalities. Not really, they're too afraid of commitment, afraid to work it out, and they'd rather just not. They'd rather not talk about it. And the fact that it was too shortly talked about. It was so sudden, it was out of nowhere. They're all hanging out at Ted's house. The babies had just been put down to sleep. And then they talk about it. And the next thing you know, they're bringing up the fact that Lily's having a third baby, and now all of a sudden they're not talking about it anymore. It really wasn't discussed very well. It was just, oh yeah, well we talked about it and we decided that we were getting a divorce. And it's just, I don't know, that was it. They were like shocked. They were like, no way. Like, oh, whatever, she's having a baby. Oh, she's having a baby, oh my gosh. And it was done. So, frustrating there. The other problem stems kind of from that problem, mainly the overarching problem with this whole thing. They have to cover 16 years, well, almost 16 years worth of information in less than an hour. If you take out like the first 5 minutes of the first half of the first part of the 2 episodes, and you take out the last 5 minutes of the last episode, because they had the wedding recital at the beginning, and they had Ted meeting the mom at the end with the kids telling him, go after Robin. That's like maybe 45 minutes overall to tell 16 years worth of information. And that's why the first one's such a problem, because you didn't get to experience that relationship at all. One second they're getting married, they're at the recital. Next second, now they're getting divorced. It's too fast. And that's part of the problem, is that you can't cover that much information in such a short amount of time. You have to give room for development. You have to give room for experiencing all of the stuff going on. And I'll admit, the second time watching it, it did feel a bit better. So maybe, but once you watch it the first time, though, I mean, it's only an hour, and all of this stuff has happened in such a short amount of time. It doesn't work. So that is a problem. I do understand why they had to do it, but it is a major problem. And then finally, probably my biggest problem is the group dynamic. Robin has now left. She's just gone for no really good reason. They didn't show a scene where she started her long, she was like traveling all over the world doing new stuff, and they didn't show that. Like, they didn't show her leaving. They didn't show them like saying goodbye, anything like that. And that was part of the reason why they got the divorce. And she's just never around, and when she is, it's like so short. She has to leave quickly. And then Barney, after the divorce, just goes right back into everything that I thought he had grown out of. And yeah, he does get a bit of a resolution at the end, but it felt like, really, you went through this with Robin, and you're really just gonna hop right back into all the stupid stuff you were doing before. All of the player stuff. The playbook is back. It felt so, I don't know, forced, I guess, because you felt like he had changed for Robin, and then once they get the divorce, oh, he hasn't changed at all. And if it didn't work with Robin, well, it's not going to work with anybody. So whatever, just change. And the fact that the group kind of accepts that is like, no, you don't change, and then when something doesn't go right, you just go right back to what was comfortable. That's not healthy. That's just hiding back into what you know instead of pushing on and expanding your boundaries. And so that was really frustrating. And then just the fact that the rest of the group, besides those two, have a chance to hang out but don't really ever do it. Like, it feels like every time you see them together, it's like 2 years down the road. It's like, we need to do this more often. Like, they never do it. And I don't know, it didn't feel like they were never hanging out when they were showing clips of the future earlier in the first few seasons. They'd show clips of them when they're older, hanging out or something like that, and it never felt like they had never seen each other. It felt like they were still close friends. And in this one, it just feels like they had grown apart, and they hang out occasionally when they have time, but even when they do, it's like only for an hour or two, and then they gotta get back and watch the kids, blah blah blah. We never have time to hang out. We need to do it more often. All that stuff. And it just, I don't know, it didn't fit with the rest of the show and what they kind of got me to believe about their group later on. So those are the three main problems for me. And they do distract for me, but there are some positive things too. I've also got 3 pros to talk about. First of all, the fact that they ended with Ted going after Robin. I personally like that. I know a lot of people may not, but like I said, I don't care. I've got the camera in your face. I really gotta stop talking about that. Anyway, it made a lot of sense for the point of the show, because, stick with me on this, because I know a lot of you probably want to click out right now and be like, I can't believe he agrees with it. The whole first season bugged me, and even the second season bugged me. Because they started off in the very first episode, they meet Robin, and he ends with saying, is that how you met Mom? No, that's how I met your Aunt Robin. And it's just like, so that's not the mother. But they spent so much time trying to make us believe that they were going to end up together. All this talk about her, and so the fact that it ends with the mother's not around anymore, she's dead now, and now Ted can go after Robin. Now it makes sense why he told the story. And the kids even say, you're totally in love with Aunt Robin, because that's why this whole story was even talked about. And honestly, I saw the the alternate ending that they have on the DVD, and it really doesn't. It pretty much just says, it's the same guy who's been narrating as Ted. Was it Bob Saget, I think? But it shows him narrating, and he's talking about the mother, and it says, "That's why I'm happy I got to spend as many days as I could with her." And that, kids, is how I met your mother. And it ends with like their wedding scene, and it just, it was a nice little wrap up, but it did leave a lot of questions open. Why talk about Robin so much? Robin, Robin, Robin. And so the fact that it ended with him going after her, maybe it wasn't a surprise to everybody, but it did make the ending make sense. It did make the first two seasons, all of their time spent together and all the effort put into them and their relationship, it made more sense. It didn't make the first two seasons feel useless, which is what I thought when I first watched it. So anyway, that was just a personal thing for me. I really enjoyed that it all kind of came full circle. I know I just talked about Barney's kind of slip back into his old ways, but his recovery after he has like this perfect month. He sleeps with 31 girls in, I guess, a 31-day month. But the last girl that he sleeps with ends up having a baby. And at first he's like really down and typical Barney about it, but when he finally sees the baby, you just see this change come over him. And I love the way they did it, because he was talking about, there's no girl that I'm going to be like, and grabs a random girl, "You are the love of my life." And she's like, "Really? No, I'm just making a point, get out of here." And he uses those exact same lines when he sees the little girl. That's his baby. And I love that. I love the way the writers do that in the show. They make parallels so well. But, then you get to see him afterwards, and they're all hanging out, and he's like tired like they were from their babies. They were sitting there talking about not staying out longer than 10 tonight. He's like, 3 o'clock in the morning. And now that he's got the baby, like, "Alright guys, we're going to have so much fun tonight." He's like, "We're not staying out more than 10. That was funny. And then two like girls, like young girls, are coming by dressed very skankily. And he pulls them to the side and is like, "What are two young ladies like you doing dressed like that this late, drinking before whatever? You need to go home and take a look at your lives." And, he's officially changed. And it does show, even though I don't agree with the divorce and how it was handled and how quickly it happened, it does show that he and Robin would not have worked, because to truly change who he is, he had to have a baby. He needed a baby to experience that. And Robin wasn't going to be able to give him a baby because she's not able. So it did make a bit more sense and why it happened. Not that I still disagree with how it was handled. Still really poorly handled, but it does make sense. And it does help to further the story and show he is changed now. He has experienced that thing that, has officially changed him. And finally, showing the future after Ted met the mother. Once again, I'm kind of going back to something that was just a con. It's also a pro. I don't agree with the fact that they went through so much future in so little time, but it did have to happen. They did have to show, for the ending to make sense with him going after Robin, they did have to show a bit of the future. They couldn't have just ended with them at the railway station and that's it. That's how I met your mother, kids. No, it couldn't have ended with that. They also, and this is going to really ruffle some people's feathers, I don't think they could have gone any farther with it. I know a lot of people probably think, why not just keep it going, go a few more seasons and explain it all perfectly. I don't think they could have done that well, because the whole point was it was supposed to end with him meeting the mother. And at this point, the kids are probably already sick of him talking anyway. And so I think they ended it right where they needed to. They ended with him meeting the mother, but they showed a bit of the future too. Maybe 3 episodes would have done it better. Maybe having an hour-long season finale. I don't know. I do think they needed to show the future, but I do also think that they didn't do it well. They rushed through too much, had too little time to work with so much time, and so it gives the story purpose to show the future, and it has setbacks too, but ultimately it is a positive. They did need to show the future after he met the mother for a lot of the story to make sense. And now there are two more things that I do need to talk about because I'm not really sure if they're a pro or a con. They're kind of in the middle. One is the mother dying, and obviously, on the one hand, if it didn't happen, then the whole story wouldn't have made sense. Him going after Robin and all this, if she hadn't died, he wouldn't be going after Robin anymore. And so it does make sense that way. But at the same time, it's kind of like, really, did she really have to die? I mean, I don't know. It was kind of out of nowhere. And they did have a few clues. If you go back and watch it again after you know the ending, they have these scenes where Ted and the mother are sitting like in the hotel where Robin and Barney had their wedding, and she says, "What type of mother wouldn't be at her own daughter's wedding?" And Ted starts crying. And once I saw that the second time, I'm like, oh, it makes sense now. Because the first time I don't know, it didn't catch on. I was like, wait, what? Why is he crying? And I thought maybe her mother hadn't come to their wedding, and it was like emotional or something like that. So I don't know. It had its ups and downs. You could see it from either side. Either it makes sense to the end of the story, or did it really have to happen? You could have ended it a different way with her. I don't know. It was a little bit out of nowhere. It was just kind of like, I was even with her when she got sick. Oh, she died. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense why she hasn't interrupted the story this whole time they've been talking. And then finally, the last point to make, I guess, Lily having a third baby. It wasn't really, really needed, I don't think. It felt like I was talking about earlier, it felt like just a distraction from Barney and Robin get a divorce, and then, oh, well, they're having a baby, and we're missing all of this right now because we never hang out, which goes back to my point of, the group is never hanging out anymore. It felt so, is this necessary? Is this necessary to the story? Not really. It just felt like something, oh look, they're having another baby now. Congratulations. And I don't know. I don't get the point of it for the story. It just felt like a distraction from everything that was going on. It felt like we need a point to show that this group is not together anymore. Their friendship is kind of fallen apart. I don't know, we'll give her another baby and nobody knows about it because they're not hanging out anymore. I don't know, it felt gimmicky. So what is my overall opinion? After all these pros, all these cons, first time I watched it, really enjoyed it. Second time I watched it, I enjoyed it even more. Yeah, there are problems with it, but ultimately, I think the main point of the show is not to pander to our emotions, not to, oh, well, here's Barney and Robin's relationship. They're going to stay together forever, guys. I don't think that's the point. The point of the show is not to give us what we want out of these relationships. And I know my mom is one of the biggest haters of what they did with Barney and Robin's relationship because she loved them together. And so the fact that they got divorced, she's like, I can't believe they did that. And even now, like, this is almost a year after she finally saw the ending, and she's still just like, still can't believe they did that. And, I didn't understand it either. Like I said, I felt it was too forced, too rushed. But ultimately, the whole point of the story is destiny. It's fate. It's everything happens for a reason. Him meeting Robin, all the stuff they went through, all the girls he went through to get to the mother, and then the mother gives him 2 kids, which he always wanted kids. Robin couldn't give him kids. And then, she dies, and so now they're together. It makes sense for them to get together. All of it happened for a reason. And that's been the point of this show from the very beginning, is everything happens for a reason. That's the one thing they push harder than anything. And so I think that was what they, and obviously because the kids, they have video of those two. One was the brother from Wizards of Waverly Place. I don't know who the daughter was, but they have obviously that video of them at the very end, and they haven't aged at all over 9 years. So this was filmed obviously during the first season. So that's where they wanted to go from season one. So I do appreciate the fact that they stuck with it. They didn't say they didn't change their minds halfway through and say, well, I don't know if this is how we should do it, guys. That was the plan from season one. Was he meets the mother, has the kids, she dies, and now the story is about Robin. And she was the main focus throughout the first 8 seasons. And actually, for most of the 9th season too, was Ted and Robin. And so just the way that they did that, it really speaks to the fact that they wanted to tell this story, even if it meant upsetting a lot of people. They told the story very well. And I think overall the 9th season is completely underrated. A lot of people don't like the 9th season. I thought it was very well written. I thought, it told the story perfectly up until the actual wedding. And just, they had a story, they stuck to it, and I love what they did with it. All of them meeting the mother before Ted ever did. I thought that was well written. So anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think, and I will gladly tell you why you're wrong and why I'm right, because I'm always right. That's the Brock way. So I'll see you guys in the next week. We got a Thanksgiving themed one, kind of. It's going to be talking about commercials. We all know how many Christmas commercials are around this time of year, even though Thanksgiving still hasn't come yet. So we're going to be talking a bit about commercials and what happens with commercials. So tune in next week and we'll discuss some more stuff. So leave comments down below and see you guys next review. Peace out.